Welcome to the East End. I'm Erin Colton.
And I'm Joe Arena.
We've got lots to see this weekend.
And while you're exploring it all with us, don't forget to play along in our East End trivia game. You'll see questions pop up during the show. Scan the QR code and submit your answers at the end of the program for a chance to win some East End swag.
Farming is no doubt a staple on Long Island's East End.
Yeah, and one South Fork couple is harvesting an entirely different kind of crop, salt.
At Amagansett Sea Salt, they say the process is their passion.
Many years ago, I was traveling in Brazil and I came across the salt works between Rio and Búzios, and I just thought it was fascinating, and that started really a hobby.
And that hobby that started 30 years ago for Stephen Judelson has now flourished into a booming beachside business and a second chapter in his life.
So before Amagansett Sea Salt, I was a lawyer. I practiced law in Manhattan, and that little recession we had about 12 years ago told me it was better to do absolutely nothing than continue doing the building. After doing a little bit nothing, I was convinced to get involved in something again. My wife suggested try to see if this hobby had a business in it, and it did.
Amagansett Sea Salt is a small, unique farm that makes unrefined finishing sea salt on Long Island's East End. It's not a typical job. What do you call yourself, a salt farmer?
I call it a salt maker. Whether it's one word or two words, we're not quite sure.
No matter what you call it, the salt making process is both fascinating and simple, evaporating fresh Atlantic Ocean seawater under the sun.
What we do is we get seawater from the ocean. We then transfer the seawater into these blue 55-gallon drums where we slowly distribute it into our salt pans.
And since I wanted to learn the salt making process from beginning to end, not skipping a step, a stop at the beach was a must. All right, gotta experience every part of the job, which means going in the ocean.
We're just gonna wade in and come out with 10 gallons.
We're heading down to the water. Let's go. This is heavy.
And I'll do it by doing two at once.
What?
I'll be balanced. So
This is a hard job, Steve. After collecting our water, it was back to the farm about a mile away in Amagansett.
we have a system of barrels that we use to distribute the water. As it's evaporating, the seawater gets more and more concentrated until it's so concentrated the crystals, the salt doesn't stay dissolved anymore and it starts crystallizing. We'll collect the salt crystals from here. We'll mound everything up to wait for us to collect it, to put it in the big bins.
Can I eat it?
You can, it's going to be strong.
Ooh. No, I laugh.
It's fresh.
Listen, I'm a salt girl, so, you know, this is my jam. Is there a technique to the shoveling?
Be very gentle with it. Perfect, you're a salt maker.
That's gentle enough.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm a salt maker?
You're a salt maker.
Just like that.
That's it.
The next step was cleaning the salt crystals.
We're going to remove as much of the debris as we can. We'll then bring everything inside. We'll do a hand cleaning. And then finally, we'll mill it into a more consistent size, a smaller size, and finish jarring it. We make about 9 different flavored blends, from a lemon zest salt to a salt blended with Eau de Provence. We make salts with Aleppo peppers. We make salt with Merlot wine. Truffle salt we'll do in everything, bagel salt. We keep on experimenting.
Steven says his sea salt is used by some of the best chefs on the East End and nationwide.
We sell almost 50 pounds a week of our salt to Michelin-starred restaurants across the country.
Is there a particular factor or a part of the climate on the East End that makes this salt different?
First, we're blessed with really pure seawater. The algae that's in our water is really what makes part of the flavor different.
Compare your life from now to 20 years ago.
Nowadays, I'm enjoying myself a lot more. When I win the lottery, I'll keep on making the pure salt.
That's how much you love it.
Very much so, yes.
Wow, cool lesson on salt.
It's got to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, right.
Our next stop takes us to a North Fork brewery where they're cooking up something special.
Beef and beer, and I call that my dream assignment. And now they're giving customers a chance to learn how it's all done. For friends Larry Frasca and Chris Hubert, working under the same roof was never a lifelong dream, but you could say the joining of their lifelong passions.
Which sauce would you like on the side of this?
Barbecue for Chris and brewology for Larry.
From the get-go, it seemed like a great match.
And for almost a year now, whether it's from their taps or their custom-built 1,000-gallon smoker out back, Branch Brewing Company and Meat's Meat have been serving up a winning combination. Branch, a farm brewery, first opened its doors on Sound Avenue in 2023. They offer dozens of beers, ciders, and wines, all made in New York State.
We have the ability to really focus on the amazing brewers and the amazing people making wine and distilled spirits out here.
Winery buses now that are seeing a unique opportunity here. Instead of going to many different wineries, this is a different vibe, a different feel. So a lot of the buses now are coming in on Saturdays and Sundays. It's a logistical challenge when you have a big party bus of 60 people come, but we can handle it.
And figuring out how to feed those hungry customers was another feat, but Larry eventually found the solution, low and slow.
They're all done.
The man in charge of the smoker is also named Larry, Pitmaster Larry Meat Mondello. He's serving up an average of 60 briskets a week, and that's not including the pulled pork, chicken, and ribs.
It's second to none. It really is probably some of the best barbecue, specifically his brisket, specifically his pastrami, some of the best I've ever tasted.
Maui, you see we got 2 burgers?
And come this winter, guests can learn for themselves how it's all done. They'll be offering pitmaster classes.
And that's going to be specific to different items, such as learn how to cook a brisket, learn how to cook ribs, different classes like that. And then there'll be an overall, which will be fire management, how to trim, how to season.
And today, Larry gave me, an amateur smoker, my very own pitmaster lesson. Today's session, Pastrami Brisket 101. And the first thing you gotta do is trim the fat.
You don't have to be scared. These bad boys got a lot of fat on them.
Yeah, this is pastrami. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It feels a lot like brisket.
Yeah,
right?
you want some fat on there.
What's that like, having to crank out 60 brisket a week?
We're actually looking at another 1,000 gallons just to fill the store. The demand is, it's been pretty crazy.
Once trimmed to completion, it was time for a rub. That's Larry, in case you didn't know. And this is his pastrami rub.
Yep, it's black pepper, it's ground mustard seed, it's paprika, it's a little bit of salt in there, and a couple other spices.
Okay. Here comes the pastrami. Laying it down right there. All right. Good night, sweet prince. And this is the magic of TV. We're able to show you the finished product of that smoked pastrami. You could sell this. A can't-beat combo on the plate and in person.
My goal was really to elevate beer and elevate the experience of beer.
Hopefully we're adding to the allure of this area.
Wow, that really was your dream assignment.
You got beer, you got beef under one roof. That's like my man cave. All right, well, if you're looking for a weekend getaway, why not visit the site of America's oldest inn?
But this renovated resort is anything but outdated. We teamed up with Discover Long Island for an inside look at Canoe Place Inn and Cottages.
Escape to a Long Island landmark, revived with rich historic tradition and boutique charm here at the Canoe Place Inn and Cottages.
So this is the birthplace of the oldest inn in America, 1697. It's been through many different iterations through then.
The property features 13 guest rooms, 7 luxurious suites, and 5 charming cottages set across 6 acres of lush gardens and beautifully landscaped grounds, creating a welcoming getaway for all ages.
So we have a tremendous number of event spaces here, starting with the grand ballroom, which is really more than a ballroom. Then we have the pavilion, which is what we really title our pre-event space. Outside you have the terrace, as well as our event lawn, and that's about 7,500 square feet.
The unique indoor dining spaces accommodate both intimate dinners and group gatherings, and the covered terrace set in a lush garden provides an idyllic setting for al fresco dining.
but really focusing on farm to table. Obviously being out in Long Island, trying to use whatever produce from local farmers as well as seafood from the area is definitely a highlight.
Be sure to check their website for upcoming events. For Discover Long Island, I'm Brianna McEnroe.
Many cool events happening there. Thanks, Brianna.
Still ahead, we tour an East End farm where you can sip on wine made from organic grapes.
If you've driven on the North Fork of Long Island's East End, you have no doubt passed this place and said, what is all that stuff? If you think it's interesting on the outside, wait until we take you inside. Lumber and Salt. I mean, this is like a Game of Thrones book, or?
Similar. Inside there's some old bread cutters from Belgium.
Wow, look at these old cowboy boots over here. Where does something like this come from? Lumber and Salt in Jamesport is a place where hidden gems are found.
It's an architectural salvage, sort of treasure trove. You don't know what you're going to expect when you come in.
Brooke Cantone was looking to expand her design brand when she opened Lumber and Salt with partner John Mazer.
They're going to use some of the reclaimed mushroom board for this.
Nice.
The store features antiques and reclaimed materials from all over the world. Together, they have created a must-stop attraction on Long Island's East End.
People drive by all the time and they say, I've driven by this place for years. And then once you come in, it's like a little jewel box of wow, because there's so much stimulation and there's so many key pieces to look at.
From one-of-a-kind cocktail tables from Bali to vintage lighting and sculptural pieces from right here on the East End. Every time you visit, there's something new to discover. When I walk in this room, I'm seeing everything from a traffic light to what looks like a book from the olden ages to, what are these, old cigarette boxes?
These cigar cases came from a factory that we bought in Pennsylvania.
Can I touch it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
These are just archival newspaper catalogs, and these date back, I think, turn of the century.
And not only are visitors able to buy the eclectic pieces, but they can also own the history that comes along with it.
The nostalgia of it is something that we really connect with.
This case came out of the local Jamesport candy store, probably from the 1940s.
Wow.
I got it from a family that sold their farm here.
Sometimes it's the story even about where the piece came from, that then it becomes a story inside someone else's home.
That's right. If it's unique to them and they can pull it from us, get the right piece that they can enjoy or reincorporate into their design vision, that's a win for us.
Something else unique, there's a local coffee shop inside the store.
The coffee itself is local. It's from Jamesport Sourdough and Coffee Co. We have a tea program, which is also local. The Herb Loft. We really want you to enjoy the experience here, have a cup of coffee, support local, sort of be within the space for you to peruse and wander.
Where does the name come from?
So lumber is the foundation of a structure, and lumber's our #1 bestseller. And salt is, we love what the salt does coming off of the sound, and we love how the salt patinas surface, whether it's metal and oxidizing it, or whether it's lumber and giving it a little wear.
I mean, these columns over here, they look like they could have been in the Coliseum. Where'd they come from?
They came out of Sag Harbor. We bought a lot of stuff from an English pub dealer, and those signs come along with it.
An old piece with such history and soul among a new space, giving these pieces a home, is something that we really celebrate.
Thanks, Erin. We are in Calverton right now, and what might look like an ordinary vineyard I'm walking through might surprise you, and that's because this vineyard and these grapes are the only certified organic grapes grown here on the East End.
1984 is when we bought the farm.
Rex Farr might be the only organic wine producer on Long Island's East End these days, but how he got to where he is a story in itself.
I'd come out of Vietnam in 1969, started working with musicians.
Rex's first career was in the music industry. His wife Connie worked with designer textiles. Neither had a background in farming, but Rex spent his childhood summers in Southampton and knew the East End was something special.
The reason we ended up with these 60 acres, I knew that the North Fork was completely undervalued.
So they bought the land and in the late 80s started growing vegetables organically.
It was a drastic change from New York City to out here full time.
And and Rex says those first few years were trial and error, but the Farrs were able to successfully harvest herbs, fruits, and organic vegetables. Fast forward to 2005, during a night out when Rex dared himself to grow something else, an organic grape.
Like all good stories, it started in a bar. Said it couldn't be done. Bottle of Jack at the bar. Woke up the next morning, the Jack was gone. Farming was here.
And the idea was there. Shortly after, the farm wine vineyard was planted, 8.5 acres, all grown biodynamically. It's an unconventional way of farming that focuses on planting during a specific time in the lunar cycle.
I work off of a biodynamic calendar, farming by the moon. Bottom line, if you've heard that the moon affects gravity and the high and low tides, that's how I look at my crop.
Greg Gove is their winemaker, and he says when it comes to working with these particular organic grapes, less is more.
So what I do is I'll ferment a little bit warmer, I'll leave more skin contact. So I'm just basically trying to extract what's there. There's a real purity and intensity with his grapes. The wines that I've made from these are beautiful.
And recognized. Farms Reserve, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and Malbec are all award winners. And if you visit the vineyard for a sample, it's also a visit to Rex and Connie's home. Their tasting room is their elevated porch. A simple setup, Connie says, compared to when they first started out growing and selling veggies.
It was so difficult doing vegetables. I mean, I still worked in the city and I'd go into the grain markets in the morning before work, and it was just a lot. Any farming is a lot of work, no matter what you do. Grapes at least are somehow more rewarding. It's nicer to grow a nice bottle of wine than a nice tomato.
Still ahead on the East End.
This is our little passion project that got out of control.
From candles to cutting boards, we visit an East End shop where everything is homemade.
Welcome back. One of the most charming parts about Long Island's East End are the mom and pop shops, where nothing's mass produced and almost everything is handmade.
And at R.E.N. Design Company in Wading River, one couple turned their crafting and carpentry hobbies into full-time careers.
It's really the definition of a mom and pop shop.
I'm Samantha Nagorski, and I own R.E.N. Design Company with my husband, Jason Nagorski.
R.E.N. Design is a furniture and home decor store.
We opened in November of 2017. We are located in Wading River, the gateway to the North Fork. This is our little passion project that got out of control. We've been together for 18 years. I liked painting and photography, and he was building, so we kind of just married the two, where I would design and he would bring those projects to life for me. When we started thinking about this, I was pregnant. My mommy genes kind of kicked in, and I wanted to name it after my daughter. So each letter of R.E.N. is her initial, Ruby Elizabeth Nagorski. All of the wood pieces in the store are made by us by hand. Wooden furniture, wooden cutting boards, any wood decor that you would put in your home. We have a lot of signs and tabletop decor for your kitchens, benches, mugs.
I would say our dining room tables makes up probably the majority of our business, and then the wood cutouts of Long Islands are also a huge part of our business. A lot of people come to us with custom ideas of things they like. She has the brilliant mind of being able to talk to a customer and just hear their ideas and design this wonderful piece. I put as much passion into it as something I would for friends or family.
We can bring in other local artists. We have a crochet company, a local candle company that does candles and room sprays, and we have a local artist who's new to the North Fork that does poetry. It's the most amazing feeling being able to be like, we created all of this. You can really just step back and be so proud of where we've come from. I want our customers to take away the feeling of family and home. It's bringing the joy from here back to your house.
You can tell those creations were made with love.
Yeah, and that place itself, warm, cozy, the kind of place that's just the backbone of the East End.
Absolutely.
Now time to check your answers in our East End trivia game. If you've been playing along, scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen. It'll take you to our website where you can submit your answers for the chance to win some East End swag.
You'll also find more information on our website about all the places we've explored in this episode.
And while you're there, let us know about your favorite places to visit on the East End, from the lavish to the local.
Because it just may be our next adventure. See you next time.